Welcome to the North Suburban Library District virtual program entitled Genealogy, Documents, and Documenting. My name is Joanna Mladic, and I am the local history librarian at the North Suburban Library District. There are many resources available through the North Suburban Library District to conduct genealogical and historical research. There are also a lot of resources available from other sources as well. This virtual program will go further in depth on how to document this research and where to find different types of historical documents to assist with genealogical research. As a disclaimer, some of the records shown in this program may be difficult to view. These records span the history of the United States, and some of the materials presented may reflect outdated, biased, offensive, and possibly violent views and opinions. Over the course of this program, we will discuss the following topics: approaches to historical research, how to find historical documents, how to document the information that you find, and you'll find that we will be walking through a process that you will continue to revisit, and you may find yourself in different spots for longer or shorter periods of time. Research is a tedious process. Sometimes it can be slow, but at other times it can be fast and overwhelming. To start your genealogical research, begin talking with family members. To understand more about what you learn from these family members, think about conducting further historical research to understand the context of the time period that the individual or individuals were living in. And remember to be patient with yourself. And remember that history is limited to the documents left behind by those who have gone before us. As frustrating as it may be, there may not be a document that says exactly the information that you're looking for. When working with family members, try to start with those closest to you, maybe a grandparent, a parent, an aunt, or an uncle. Take time to ask them about their experiences and other ancestors that they may have met or may know more about. Who do they remember as family members during their lifetime? Try to come to the conversation maybe with 5 to 8 open-ended questions of what you would like to know. Open-ended questions usually begin with what, why, or how. Try to avoid yes and no questions, as these may not encourage a family member to elaborate on their responses. Be open to sharing what you already know with them, but also let them lead the conversation and try not to interrupt too much. If you can, record these conversations in some way. Maybe take notes while you're conversing in a notebook or on your question sheet. And always be sure that you ask permission before recording someone via video or audio. If they consent, you can record or voice record the interview for your reference. And if you're going to post anything, be sure to ask their permission again. That way they're aware that the information is going to be potentially put out there for others to view and listen to. And as soon as the interview's over or the conversation is over, write a transcript of the interview from your notes or from the recording. Do this as soon as you can following that interview, before you forget any of your thoughts or other questions that may have come up during that time. Interviews with family members can be difficult, especially if there are events or times that they would rather not discuss or remember. Try not to push too hard, and respect if they don't want to or aren't ready to share something with you. Perhaps come back to it at the end of your conversation or at another time. Once you've spoken with these family members, ask them about who else may have family history memories and or documents. These may be pictures, birth, marriage, or death certificates, or maybe family heirlooms that have a wonderful history and story that they can share with you. To find out more and corroborate the information, try to find documents that support the information that they shared. These can be found in multiple places and formats, in documents that your family may already have, or from other outside sources such as newspapers, again, birth, marriage, or death records, or archives and libraries. As you begin to gather more information, consider how you will share this information with your family. It should be accessible, and if possible, create electronic or print versions that you can share. As you reflect on your conversations with family members, it is helpful to conduct historical research from a similar time period to understand regional, geographical, and world events that may have influenced an individual or family. What events occurred that may have influenced their lives directly or indirectly? Understanding these events may lead you to more questions or more research. Another aspect to consider are the social, political, gender, and familial expectations that influenced an ancestor as well. Understanding these may help inform why an individual made certain decisions in their life. A good place to start with this type of research will probably be in books, and as you begin to learn more, journal articles and newspapers may be helpful to understand events that were occurring in a specific town or city and provide insight into how this may have affected your ancestor specifically. As you delve further into your research, keep in mind the two types of sources you're likely to encounter. Primary sources were created at the time an event occurred. These may include diaries, government documents, newspaper articles, and photographs or artwork. Sometimes these items are more personal in nature, such as a diary or a photograph, while others may be more official, such as newspaper articles and official government documents. Secondary sources document events that have already occurred and are created after the fact. Primary sources are often used to write about events and to create secondary sources. Examples of secondary sources include books, journal articles, family histories. When you document your family history, you are creating a secondary source using primary materials. It is very important to document where you find information, so you or your family members don't need to go about rediscovering where information came from and have to start the process all over again. You want to easily be able to reference the information that you're collecting. So it is up to you where you keep this information and however it is easiest for you to organize it. Maybe try a spreadsheet or a notebook and think about how you want to cite all of this information. At a minimum, citations should include the author of the original document, the date of that document, its name, and the location where the document was found. One method I would suggest for citations is using a numbering system. It's very similar to a Chicago-style citation, if you are familiar with that, and place an asterisk with a number, starting with 1, at the end of your citation. And then in your spreadsheet or notebook, starting with 1, write or type the information that we talked about a moment ago to create the citation for that document. Again, using the author, date, name, and location of the document. So, where do we begin looking? We've gone through the first several steps of this process: conversations with family members, historical research, and citations. But as you begin to delve further into the primary source search process, the places to look and potential locations of documents can be overwhelming. On this slide and the next slide are ideas of where to begin searching for primary source documents that may be related to your family members. NSLD's Heritage Quest, which can be accessed from home by NSLD cardholders, and Ancestry Library Edition, which is available for library use only, may be good places to start. These have access to census records, marriage, birth, and death records. Another excellent source is a website called Find a Grave, And it can be a good way to access information not only about where an ancestor may be buried and provide a picture of their memorial, but it can also provide obituaries or links to other family members you may not know about that would be related to that specific individual, and also may link you out to their burial sites and memorials with pictures. So, other institutions with really large databases of digitized records may be a good next step once you have a chance to take a look at the library resources and at Find a Grave. So, some of these really large institutions may include the Library of Congress or the National Archives and Records Administration. They are also known as NARA. Libraries and museums have genealogical resources as well. They may have access to records, including cemetery records, local census records, or obituaries not yet digitized. Churches may have baptism, marriage, or funeral records. And local governments may have housing information, or if you are looking for more information about the history of your home, they may have ownership records that can tell you more about individuals who've owned the property. If you know your home was designed by a specific architect, you may try contacting the firm who designed the home if they're still in business for copies of these plans. Historical societies may have genealogical information as well as artifacts and histories on specific families from a geographical region. We do have some here in our local history collections at NSLD as well on specific families, both from the Loves Park Harlem area here at North Suburban Library Loves Park at our Loves Park location, and also at our Roscoe location for families that were that settled in the Roscoe region. Letters and other documents from family members may also reside at a historical society. On this slide, we'll talk a little bit more about other locations where historical documents and information about family members may reside. So we'll take a little bit more in-depth look at some potential locations that are accessible here in Illinois, should you wish to visit them. So let's start with the Chicago History Museum. You are able to access the collections online and in person. Visiting hours may change during the course of the year, so I recommend checking their website for the most up-to-date information. Their collections have many 2D materials housed in them, including Marshall Field and Montgomery Ward records. One drawback is that these records do not include employee records at all. They also have orphanage records, building permits from 1872 to 1954, city directories, and also the address conversion when the streets were renumbered in 1909 and when the streets were renumbered in the Loop in 1911. There is also a great resource called chicagoinmaps.com. This is wonderful for historical and present-day maps of the city of Chicago that date back to 1834. The Family History Library is located in Wilmette, Illinois, and their collection contains a large number of microfilm and microfiche for the Chicago and Cook County, including marriage, birth, and death certificates. They do offer free copies of these documents and are open from Tuesday through Saturday in case you would like to visit in person. The National Archives and Records Administration, or NARA, they contain a large number of documents available online, including federal court records. You may also contact them with questions via phone and email. If you are looking for an ancestor who may have served in the military, they also have veteran service records. They are able to assist with replacing lost medals and awards for veterans as well. At NARA Chicago, they have records pertaining to the indigenous populations, for the Great Lakes region, including federal allotment records and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Only about 1% of these records are digitized, and there's about 4,500 feet of them. Many colleges and universities, usually within their library, contain an archive that documents the history of the institution. These records are very helpful in conducting genealogical research as they contain student records, club records, photographs, and usually contacting via phone or email is usually available. If it is during the summer months, keep in mind that it may take a bit for a response as folks may be on vacation or out of the office. Archives are usually attached to an institution of some type. These may be businesses, law firms, and among other options. Some are very specific, and you need to contact the business to access the archives. And it may not be possible to visit the collection. You may only be able to correspond via email or phone with the archivist. You may have to submit your request very specifically to them, and they will be able to send you any pertinent documents that they find. The Newberry Library was begun in 1887 as a free public library. They are open Tuesday through Saturday for research. Please see their website for hours that research times are available. They do have genealogy records for the Midwest, the United Kingdom, New England, and the South and Southwest United States. They don't offer appointments, and there is no remote access to their databases. They have Chicago newspapers from the 19th century and the 18th century New England. The Newberry has approximately 65,000 city directories, and about half of these are digitized. Approximately 55,000 published family histories, local histories, maps, passenger lists, and military records dating back to the French and Indian War also make up their collection. And finally, their collection also includes the Pullman Company Archives collection with documents pertaining to the Brotherhood Union of Pullman Porters. So, how do we go about approaching an institution and asking them for information? Find out as much as you can from their website, such as whether appointments are accepted, what to bring with you, and what duplication equipment is available. If you are not able to find the information, don't hesitate to call or email with your questions. Provide as much information as you have about your ancestor, their name, their birth date, any married names, death dates, locations lived in, any nicknames they went by, etc. If you don't receive a response, be persistent, but patient. Follow up with a phone call or email if you haven't heard back in several weeks. There may be fees for copies, scans, or research conducted on your behalf. Check the website or ask before requesting the information. If you are visiting in person, if you can, try to bring some cash with you, as not all institutions have the ability to accept credit cards. As you begin to gather information, it can quickly become disorganized, especially if you're collecting information about more than one person at a time. You can always revise as you go, but early on, try to decide on a documenting process that works for you and is comfortable. Decide how you will keep documents, such as should they be printed or electronic. I would recommend electronic as these will be easier to share with other folks interested in the information. Will you keep these documents in a cloud service like Google Drive, on a flash drive, an external hard drive, or in computer drives on a desktop or laptop? Try to be consistent in your file naming convention. For an example, create a document for each individual with the date you created or last updated it, their last name, first name, and maiden name, if applicable, that you've researched. Include the information you know about them in this document, and reference any specific primary source documents you have obtained, such as birth, marriage, or death records. To help others understand the connection between ancestors, it may also be helpful to have a visual family tree to accompany the documents associated with each person. There are many different kinds of family trees. You can create one yourself. You can download them from the Library Ancestry Edition, or if you have an Ancestry account, you can create your family tree there. You could also copy a page from a library genealogy book. The type seen on the slide is called a descendant tree. So when working on genealogy, this is my preferred type of tree, as you can quickly see the familial connections between individuals. Other types of family trees include fan charts, pedigree charts, and family group or individual records or sheets. One thing to consider is marking next to an individual's name on your family tree with a letter or number to indicate if they have any primary source documents or individual documents you created, to let a viewer know that there is more information physically or digitally about that individual that you've collected. You can use the same numbering or lettering system when naming primary source or individual informational documents. Some things to keep in mind. As I mentioned earlier, genealogical research, or any research really, can be a slow and tedious process that may take many years. It can and will be overwhelming and frustrating, but also very rewarding. There are many things to consider, not just the people. Keep going with the process. Talk with family members. Do some more historical research, and then move into more genealogical research. Keep in mind, not everything is digitized and may be in unusual places or hidden within collections. I'm sure many of us have seen or heard of the show Who Do You Think You Are? One important thought to keep in mind is the show has a team of genealogists, historians, and archivists who help put an individual's genealogy together. Before someone appears on the show, it may take years before they have enough information on a person's ancestry to film. Don't give up. Be sure to check out our genealogical and newspaper databases, as I mentioned earlier, as these can be amazing places to start. From home, those with an NSLD card are able to access Heritage Quest, the Post Journal, and the Rockford Register Star. The Illinois Digital Archive does not require a library card to access remotely. At the library, you are able to access the Ancestry Library Edition, and please don't hesitate to reach out with questions concerning NSLD's collection contents. The NSLD Local History email is localhistory@northsld.org, and our phone number is 815-633-4247. Thank you again for joining us for this virtual program, and happy searching!